Peace and love. This is Brother Faheem, and you're now tuned in to the Lead with Logic podcast. You know the vibes. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. I'm your gracious host, Brother Faheem, and you are now listening and watching another episode of the Lead with Logic podcast. Listen, life always moves at such an ultramagnetic pace. I try to keep my boots laced so that I can always be in a position to win the race. Man, woo, summer is officially over, at least for the kiddos, it is. um, School's back in session. I know a lot of people are glad that the babies are out and about. They're able to get back in school. The juniors are learning something. And man, what can you say? What can you say? A little late today, a little late, just a little bit late. Forgive me, y'all. Trying to get everything together, but a little bit late. What can I say? So much going on. So much going on. So much going on. Current events. It's been a lot. You know, we had a sister to recently be taken from us, be snatched from us, actually. Sister Sonia Massey in Illinois. She was snatched from us in such an unjust manner. And we've seen this movie and we know how it ends. And so what we are banking on is that the judicial system will do its job and honor Black life, right? We see the slogans, or we hear the slogans, we see the organizations, and we're hoping that now they will prove to be of some relevance and significance in this case and in this trial. For those of you all who are not aware, again, I'm pretty sure you are. Sister Sonia Massey was killed, I want to say on the 6th of July in Illinois. I forget what part of Illinois, but she was killed by an officer. And it was interesting, the officer's history, very interesting, very, very interesting. But yes, she was snatched from our family, from our human family first, and our Black family second. But it was something else. It was very, very tragic. It is very tragic, and it was something that the nation is still dealing with and waiting to see how it will be handled, how this will be, uh, uh, how they'll go forward, how justice will be received for our sister and her family, because it's super duper tragic and unjust all at once. It's pretty bad. So, but I come forth, man. I wanted to talk about a couple things, right? I have a book that if you guys caught my last live, I interviewed Brother Supreme Understanding, Dr. Sujan Das, our brother, one of the gods, and he's an author, a critically acclaimed author, and he has a couple of different great reads that you guys should check out when you get a chance. But one of those books is, and I mentioned it, it's called Knowledge of Self, a collection of wisdom on the science of life. Great, great read. Great, great read. I was going to read something out of there that deals with knowledge versus belief, right? Knowledge versus belief. But nonetheless, you know, um, I wanted to discuss also a little bit of the political rumblings, not too much. I saw something that I thought I would show you guys. It was interesting, and it really demonstrates, at least my perspective, on one of the parties that are running one of the campaign, the Democratic platform. It's a minister, and he he's going over the issues that he has with one of the parties, and I thought it was relevant. I thought that you guys might want to might want to check it out. And so I'm here trying to log it in so that you guys can check it out. Okay, here we go. He's really giving his take on. He's really expressing his issues with the Democratic Party. Now, it's been a lot of social debate. It's been a lot of arguing. It's been a lot of things going on. A lot of banter. A lot of chatting. Just a whole bunch of things that has been transpiring around this election season, which it always really is. Really, if you're paying attention, but it's been rather eventful, to say the least. This campaign season, and so I want to share with you guys something that caught my eye because he really demonstrates uh he really demonstrates and emphasizes at least my perspective on the Democratic Party. I always say it's not so much that people, at least black people, are so much Republican. It's more that we are kind of trying to figure out what the Democratic Party has offered us for the longest. What have they brought to the table? And their platform is going in the direction that many people uh, just can't support, just can't advocate for. And so I want to share this with you guys because I think that he does a great job of demonstrating how it's less about at least the exodus from the Democratic machine. It's less about Donald Trump winning and more about what they have gotten behind, what the party has gotten behind. So
I can't vote for a party that is for all kind of sexual perversions. I can't do it. I can't vote for a party that's going to accept transgenders going into women's restrooms. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't go with a party that wants to cut little girls' breasts off to make them boys. I can't go with a party that says you can be a boy today and a girl tomorrow. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't support a party that wants to remove God from its party platform. You in trouble when the nation forgets God. I can't follow a party that wants to sexualize our children in school, put drag queens in front of them, reading them little children's stories. I can't do it. I can't support a party that wants to take the rights of parents away. In California right now, parents are being arrested because they won't go along with the sexualization of their children. But there are many parents that are compromised. Y'all got to make a decision. It's either God or the devil.
when I saw that, I said, okay, that's it. What that minister really demonstrated was what his underlying message was. A lot of the policies and platforms that the Democratic Party has now decided to stand on, they're just not in alignment with the community. You know, uh, they're just not. And that's not to say, you know, I'm for oppressing anybody or that I'm for seeing anyone get mistreated or mishandled, because I'm not at all. But at the same time, you know, I want to absolutely vote for a party that is going to have, if I'm going to throw that much support around you, I need to know that you have my best interest at heart and that you're looking out for me mentally, spiritually, and especially economically. But but yeah, I thought that was very interesting that that minister would stand up there and say that, because he was absolutely saying, "Look, I can't really stand behind these things. I can't. I can't support it." And there are things about the Republican Party, about Donald Trump, that I can't stand behind. Right? There are things about that party that aren't in alignment with them or with me throwing my support behind. But that's just what I saw, and I said, "Yeah, that's it." So it's less about, you know, who Trump is and more about what they're deciding to do with that party. And so, yeah. But with that being said, I mentioned a book that I was going to I mentioned a book that I was going to read to you guys uh, by Supreme Understanding Allah. And I was going to go over some stuff. You know, we live in a society today where, and I talked about this, where people really discard and throw facts away the way they do trash or their food's wrapping. They just don't honor it much anymore. And one of my favorite MCs, or one of the most impactful, influential MCs that I remember, his name is KRS-One, and that was an acronym for Knowledge Reigns Supreme Over Nearly Everyone. Knowledge reigns supreme over nearly everyone. That's KRS-One. And so I wanted to go over something that that demonstrated, or at least an article that I read, that hopefully will cause you to think or rethink knowledge and belief. So I'll be taking breaks. So it's called Knowledge versus Belief. Which side are you on? And this is by a brother named Almighty Supreme Scientist from Bourne Mecca, Baltimore, Maryland. The belief you have is without knowing whether you believe rightly or not. When a man believes a thing and doesn't have nothing but belief, whether it's right or wrong, and has no proof, he just believes. A brief investigation of the devil's civilization will reveal a wide variety of distorted falsehoods. To the inquisitive individual who is in search of an answer to any one of life's common equations, there are many so-called solutions floating around. Around every corner, someone is professing to possess the right and exact method of action. Whether it's a new and improved remedy or a well-known ancient ritual, there is no shortage of ideas. There's a lot of talkers out there. What is the most reliable source for discovering the truth? How can we distinguish fact from fantasy? There are some of the most significant questions we can ask ourselves in becoming critical thinkers. I'm going to pause right there. Becoming critical thinkers, right? Part of becoming a critical thinker is doing a knowledge, look, listen, and observing, and allowing your logic to lead you, leading with logic, allowing your logic to be your guide. And that's not diminishing or destroying your emotion, but it's understanding that emotion is fleeting, emotion is wavering, and emotion can be misleading in certain ciphers in certain environments. So allow that logic uh, to allow you and help sharpen your critical thinking skills, right? To the average person, there's no difference between the concepts of belief and knowledge. Belief is the acceptance of something as true in the absence of or in spite of proof. Knowledge is the result of using the five senses of sight, touch, taste, hearing, and smell to observe. However, to the average person, belief and know mean the same thing. To be sure about something. I do not believe in belief. That was Edward M. Forster. For those of us who understand and value science, we understand that the above concepts are not interchangeable and that a lack of understanding of these two concepts has been the very foundation of original people being used as tools and slaves. It is common among the unknowing masses of the population to practice belief as the basis of their lives. In fact, our orientation into a belief system begins even before we have developed the necessary skills for distinguishing fact and fiction. During childhood, we were predisposed by our active imaginations to accept various pretend notions about life. As we developed in age and maturity, we began to adopt a more critical standard of qualifying and disqualifying our concepts about the world around us. No longer could we simply believe in a myth that was contradictory to or out of the perimeters of our senses. As a result, we were carefully weaned from one fictional expression of life to the next. The latter differs only by being slightly more complementary to our growing logic and understanding of the real world around us. We begin our enrollment in the deception being exposed to talking animals, to storybook and television characters, to the Easter Bunny, to the Tooth Fairy, to Santa Claus, and ultimately graduating into accepting a mystery God that no one can see until he dies, supposedly. While we tend to suffocate our youth in fanciful ideas and stories early on in life, proper education must always correct errors before they are big men and women. Why is this so? Because we know very well that if they are to survive and be successful as adults, they must be able to know life in actuality from what exists in their imagination. As a a child with an imaginary friend seems acceptable. An adult with an imaginary friend is pathetic. A child who believes in talking animals seems cute. An adult who does is disturbed. Do you feel comfortable around adults who hear voices? Or does it depend on who the voices supposedly belong to? This is why, as the child matures, we must reduce, if not eliminate, the reliance on myths, legends, and beliefs. He can't be stopped with knowledge. Knowledge and belief are different. I can believe that there's an airplane out there on the doorsteps, but that may be just a belief. There is no airplane out there. The likelihood of adult success increases as such proper education increases. We can we can even identify the growth of civilization by the number of individuals graduating from primitive belief systems to educational and scientific systems. Having agreed that at best, assumptions about life, also known as beliefs, only contribute to psychological comfort and oftentimes actually hinder clear perception of reality. We realize the importance of an education that facilitates the skills needed to discover truth and reject falsehood. This is the form of education advocated and practiced by the nation of gods and earths. There are basically two schools of thought within the 5%, the religious and the scientific. Muslims are characteristic of the former and the nation of gods and earths, the latter. It is important to note the differences in the methods each group utilizes to discover truth and also their individual rites, rituals, and behaviors. While many are interested in the knowledge of the 5%, one must be careful of religious ideology presented as science. Oftentimes, when a person comes in the name of 5%, it is only a shield to cause the listener or reader to lower their defenses. The problem with this is that the term 5% is not specific enough because individuals or groups of people often seek to associate themselves with our wisdom and understanding without going through the labor mandated by our culture. The nation of gods and earth, who are categorically affiliated with the civilized people and not Muslims and Muslim sons of the 5%, discover, learn, and live the science of life, not the religion of Islam. You may ask, what is the difference? The principal distinction begins with our awareness of the criteria for determining what is and is not a fact. Science is based on one's observation involves experimentation and evaluation I'm sorry, y'all. I'm still daddying. Uh, Science is based on one's observation, involves experimentation, and requires evaluation of all evidence before qualifying or disqualifying a hypothesis and arriving at a conclusion. In contrast, religion, which is a system of integrated beliefs, begins with the conclusion and at best only allows the believer to work backwards and prove their beliefs through a biased collection of supporting data. Religious people can share the same body of knowledge studied by the gods on earth, but they do not study this information in the same way. We critically examine while others do not. The foundation of our way of life is knowledge. This is the difference between us and nearly everyone else. This is the significance of what Allah established in 1964. A true idea has no need of any faith. That's Ken Harding. The advocates of belief offer that there is something beyond the realms of our sensory organs sight, smell, taste, hearing, and touch. This is their reason for asking us figuratively and occasionally literally to close our eyes and cover our ears to find some sort of hidden truth. It would seem most logical to the wise and intelligent that if one were looking for something hidden, abandoning one's sensory agents would only complicate the matter. However, according to religious people, belief is required as the first and most important step in finding truth. In fact, religious people are actually rewarded for believing the hardest, given the least evidence. I'm going to read that again. Religious people are actually rewarded for believing the hardest, given the least evidence. Believe nothing, O monks, merely because you have been told it, or because it is traditional, or because you yourselves have imagined it. Do not believe what your teacher tells you merely out of respect for the teacher, but whatsoever, after due examination and analysis, you find to be conducive to the good, the benefit, the welfare of all beings. That doctrine, that doctrine believe and cling to, and take it as your guide. That was Gautama. That was the Buddha, Gautama Buddha. I think I'm saying it wrong, but nonetheless, because the principle of belief is the foundation of any belief system. Once we remove reliance on belief, the entire system falls into pieces. This is dangerous to people who manufacture the beliefs and belief systems for specific reasons. And this is why the best defense for advocates of belief is to attack knowledge as the foundation. So people who are just rooted in belief, right? And belief systems will always attack the knowledge, right? They'll always attack knowledge being the foundation. I'm gonna go over something with you guys once I get done reading. The word belief is a difficult thing to me. The word belief is a difficult thing for me. I don't believe. I must have a reason for a certain hypothesis. Either I know a thing and then I know it. I don't need to believe it. Dr. Carl Jung, that was a psychoanalyst. Why? Because the birth of scientific thinking commemorates the death of potential religious thoughts and tendencies. So it is not entirely the fault of the blind, deaf, and dumb that they hate and fear science and mathematics. This is especially evident when witnessing the manner in which science is advertised to the masses as a labor rather than a luxury. Not to mention the fact that too many people, the 85%, automatically assume that science is synonymous with the white man. Indeed, what a tragedy. The ignorance extends to the area of children's television, shows, and movies where scientists are depicted as being crazy and eccentric villains, often costumed in long white jackets. In fact, it's these kinds of mental images that infiltrate the minds of youth and condition them to hold negative opinions about science as they grow into big men and women. The religious community and the powers that benefit from it must undermine scientific thinking in any way it can. The most necessary For any belief system, if it is to preserve its appeal, if ever the blind, deaf, and dumb were to discover that scientific thinking is the only shown and proven route to truth, religion would no longer be needed. If ever the illiterate thought that they could solve their problems in life by understanding the process of the natural world, they would have no need to appeal to the supernatural elements of their belief system, in the process impoverishing themselves while providing for the increased prosperity of the ones who propagate the beliefs. However, it is not always easy to detect where people and groups stand when it comes to knowledge as the foundation. This is because many people appear to deal in knowledge or science, but only to the extent that it supports their pre existing contentions. Much as some members of other nations only pretend to use supreme mathematics and supreme alphabets when it is advantageous to their appeal. Oftentimes, this is achieved by skirting religious ideas with the language of science. However, after careful examination, many of these people later reveal that they are not interested in a scientific examination of their ideas, and we are soon bombarded with beliefs they would like for us to adopt. A word to the wise: beware of false knowledge. It is more dangerous than ignorance. Universal Sham God Allah. Now this is huge because this speaks directly into what we are dealing with right now. And what I mean by that, I've been hearing a whole lot of conversations about Donald Trump and why he's bad for the nation, and also Kamala Harris and why she's bad or why she's good or why Donald Trump is good. Many times, like these, like the brother had broken down, a lot of times it's not really based in anything scientific or anything factual. It's based in what people believe. I can remember what's going on. I can remember a uh, a guy I knew. We had a discussion, and it was about Mr. Trump. And like many people today, his belief was that his belief his belief was that dealing with Mr. Trump, who was a potential fascist, could potentially cause the nation to fall into the same ruins that Germany fell into with Mr. Adolf Hitler. And he was very passionate about it. He had a strong belief, but he could not prove or show any scientific evidence of what he was implying or what he was trying to in what he was trying to say, basically, right? It wasn't based in anything except a bunch of belief, you know, surrounded in a whole lot of emotion, right? And I like what he said. You know, you really have to be steeped in reality. You really, really have to be steeped in reality, and you have to have a scientific way of thinking. It has to be based on knowledge, something that is shown and proven. Excuse me. Um, you know, when people there's a saying we can't speak about peace, peace. Welcome in, y'all. Welcome in. If you're on Facebook, post this, share it out. If you're on YouTube, send this to a friend. I appreciate y'all coming in. And I see my man LA. What's going on? You know, when you think about that saying, we can't talk about religion or politics, it's only because oftentimes when we're talking about these things, people are not dealing from a scientific and objective factual place. They're coming from an emotional, subjective, uh, relative perspective, right? And so that makes communication break down. It causes there to be discommunication. That causes there to be uh, an obstruction in communication. And you have to wonder, wow, who's benefiting from this? Who would benefit from these obstructions? Who would benefit from these breakdowns in communication? Something that I read. If ever the literate thought that they could solve their problems in life by understanding the processes of the natural world, they would have no need to appeal to the supernatural elements of their belief system. In the process, impoverishing themselves while providing for the increased prosperity of the ones who propagate the beliefs. You know, when we then begin to become scientific and think for ourselves, we can now break down not only the barriers, but these systems and these structures that have been set in place, right? These chains on our brain that ultimately, you know, lead to chains on our physical, right? And so, you know, there has to be some science, there has to be a mathematical meaning something, an equation, there has to be a resolve, and it has to be based in fact. Our our knowledge, you know, knowledge will do this for you, right? This is how I was taught. Knowledge will take you from follower to believer to knower to God. Follow knowledge will take you from follower to believer to knower to God, right? So being a believer with a little knowledge is above the follower, right? Because now you believe in something that you might have learned, right? But you don't know it yet. So once you know it, you become a knower, right? You have a bit more reign than the believer and the follower. And once you master the knowledge, you become God. And so a lot of times, a lot of times when I deal with people, I'm always amazed at how people are not leading with logic, meaning they're not discussing things from a reasoning and rationale based perspective. They're really dealing with things that they believe that really cater to their emotional state at that point, right? Or I should say their emotional state caters to their belief system, however you want to say it. But it's based in something very waning. It's not based in anything solid or sound or anything factual, oftentimes. And so that can be a problem. That is a problem. That's a real problem. So, so yes, um, you know, to the average person, I read this, to the average person, there's no difference between the concepts of belief and knowledge. There's a huge difference between those concepts. There's a huge difference, a fundamental difference too. A huge difference, between believing and knowing, you know, uh, accepting something as true in the absence of or in spite of. That's belief. A lot of people believe that Donald Trump wasn't shot. A lot of people believe that, uh, I don't know, Elvis Presley still living or Tupac. People believe that Tupac didn't die. These are all beliefs. They believe these things in spite of proof, right? In spite of concrete proof. That's their beliefs. And I'm just using those low hanging fruit, right? But you've seen them, you know, people, when you see these celebrities who are getting in trouble, people construct these beliefs in spite of having no proof at all, right? Having no proof of what they are accused of being, right? And some would say, well, what about the camera? We got camera, like in the instance of Diddy, right? We saw what he did, and that was atrocious. But what the court was accusing him of doing, the sex trafficking, right? All of those different crimes, the drug trafficking, all of these things, there was no proof of that. There was proof that he absolutely hit the young lady, but there was no proof that he was those things that he was accused of. But my point is, people took up the belief without real proof, and that's not great. That's not good at all. That's not good at all. Knowledge is the result of using the five senses: touch, taste, hearing, and smell to observe. Right. So using your senses, observing, respecting, and learning. You know, observing, respecting, and learning. Absolutely, that's how you do the knowledge and having knowledge. But knowledge should be the foundation. But he talked about something that he said. You know, that knowledge being absent, so that people who propagate the belief systems would benefit. You know, those people understand uh, that if they are to continue to control their the conditions that stricken and plague 85% of the people, then they can stay in control. They can continue their reign, right? They can continue, you know, to teach people that a mystery causes rain, hell, sleet, and snow, knowing that it's the weather, it's the precipitation, it's the atmosphere, the ripe condition in the atmosphere is what caused the rain to fall, and the Son of Man, right? But they would lie to you, and so I say all that to say, you know, a lot of arguments that are being had, a lot of bickering, a lot of infighting that I'm witnessing or that I've heard about many times is not based in any knowledge. It's merely based in belief. It's beliefs, mere beliefs. Because when you do the knowledge on any of these candidates, at least as a Afro American, you say they're all reflective of one another. They're two different wings on the same bird. There's no one candidate that is more qualified to do the job for the black community, right? So, uh, and I'll say this again, I've been saying it. It's probably better, it is better that you get more involved on your local level, right? Do the knowledge at your local level. That way you have a more immediate and uh, uh, yeah, you have a more immediate impact. That's the word. You'll see results sooner, right? So, yes, I came on here kind of late, better late than never, but I wanted to get on here and speak my piece and really deal with that and say thank you for everybody who will be watching, whoever, for all the people that came in and watched. I appreciate my man LA coming through saying what's going on. Uh, yeah, but knowledge versus belief. And also, you know, make sure that whatever knowledge you get, you apply it. Knowledge is This is wise intelligent. He said knowledge is empowered. Applied knowledge is power. Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to apply. Knowledge is great, but application is the greatest. Application is the greatest. So listen, I'm not gonna hold you guys longer. I just wanted to come through and say that. Make sure that you guys go to Lead with Logic 7. What's going on, Keith? Keith, what's going on, big brother? Listen, make sure that y'all check out my website where you can get some nice gear like this. Lead with Logic. Lead with Logic7.com. Lead with Logic7.com. Y'all head on over there. Check out the gear. Check out the brand. Support the movement. Monday nights at 8 right here. Come on through. We have something prepared for you. And I appreciate y'all. Listen, until next Monday, may we meet in the light of understanding. Listen, Peace and power, y'all.